Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Wednesday, December 17, 2025, and who are you more inclined to trust? The Russian sources or the Ukrainian sources? Are both reliable? Are both unreliable? Are the Ukrainian sources partly reliable, partly not reliable, and does the same apply to Russia? So this is the question that we're faced with regarding Kupiansk. Here I have the map of calibrated, so you can see what, according to the sources that calibrated, has how much of Kupiansk is still under the Russian control, how much has been retaken by the Ukrainians. You basically see the western portion of Kupiansk, and there's still a holdout section of Ukrainians east of Kupiansk. So this is calibrated mapping. Now let's take a look at DivGen. DivGen is a Russian mapping service. We have something similar to calibrated here. The Russian forces still control the bulk of Kupiansk. Ukrainians have made some inroads in their counterattacks, but they have not taken the city. If you go to the military summary channel, they also have the Russians controlling most of Kupiansk, although they have ceded quite a bit of territory to the Ukrainians, and the Russians are not cut off here. Now you go to the AMK mapping service, and you can see that in the Kupiansk area there is a large section of area that the Russians controlled, but it's cut off from supply and support. And so the city of Kupiansk is partly under Ukrainian control and partly under Russian control. So this is AMK mapping. And then we have the deep state map. And so we go up to the deep state map here for Kupiansk. And so we have Kupiansk has been basically, the Russians there are basically obliterated according to deep state. And they were pushed back quite a distance. It looks like probably about 15 kilometers from Kupiansk. They were pushed back, and there's little pockets of Russians who are still there, and the Ukrainians are basically cleaning this up. So this is the story of deep state. Now, what does the Russian Ministry of Defense say? The Russian Ministry of Defense says that the Zapad group of forces took over Kupiansk, which the enemy is unsuccessfully trying to regain. Russian troops, there were some comments here which I'm jumping over in this report. Russian troops continue to neutralize an enemy encircled group on the left bank of the Oskol River east of Kupiansk. So there's a little more mention, but basically that is the key information. So basically the Russians still hold Kupiansk, and they are maintaining that control and fighting off any counterattacks. So who are we supposed to believe? Because we have the deep state map, which basically says that just little pockets of Russians still left in Kupiansk, all the way to the calibrated map, which basically states that the Russians are firmly installed into the Kupiansk area, and they're basically cleaning up the remaining soldiers that were trapped and successfully maintaining its defense of the city. So these are many of the narratives that are being put out right now about Kupiansk. So again, what is the question is, what source are we supposed to believe? Are we supposed to believe the Russian sources, the Ukrainian sources? Are the Russians partly true, partly right, and partly wrong. The same for the Ukrainians. So it's really hard to know exactly who's telling the truth. But most recently in the Kupiansk area, President Zelensky appeared supposedly very recently at a point about 2 kilometers outside the city, and after many analyzed this photo or this video, they realized that it didn't correspond to how things were at that area. So it looks like that recording was either done by AI, was done previously, or was a combination of green screen and previous video. So anyway, the fact that the Ukrainians had to try to pull a fast one over us makes me believe that they really haven't made the progress in Kupiansk that they've said that they've made. Now, if you go to the deep state map and go down to the city of Chasiv Yar, here we have Chasiv Yar. According to the Ukrainians, the Russians still haven't captured all of Chasiv Yar. They haven't captured Shevchenko urban area, kind of the suburbs of Chasiv Yar. And so that means that the Ukrainians still have presence in Chasiv Yar and are fighting to retake it. So that is the position of the Ukrainians. Now, if we go to these other maps and we go down to Chasiv Yar, we'll see if there's any confirmation about that. Let's see if I can find Konstantinovka. So, let's see now. Where is Konstantinovka? Okay. Chasiv Yar. Okay, Chasiv Yar. Here in this map, Russia has, this is the AMK mapping. Russia has all but a very small part of the Shevchenko urban area. So Ukraine technically still has a small presence in Chasiv Yar, according to this mapping service, but it's basically 95% controlled by Russia. Let's go to the military summary channel. There's Chasiv Yar. Okay, who controls Chasiv Yar? So here we have Chasiv Yar, we have Shevchenko. So according to the military summary channel, Shevchenko is part of the Russian, under Russian control. So Chasiv Yar is fully 100% Russian. The divgen.ru. So I'll see if I can find Chasiv Yar because all this is in Russian. Okay, should be somewhere in here. So, Chasiv Yar. So also, this Russian mapping service also has Russia and completely controlling Chasiv Yar. Has the Shevchenko area and the suburbs. And then the calibrated map, let's go down there and see what's going on in Chasiv Yar. Okay, so there is Chasiv Yar. So basically for calibrated, also Russia has 100% control of Chasiv Yar. So anyway, I think we all need to sometimes, try to find the logical, reasonable solution to these mapping questions. But if the Russians are still holding out in Kupiansk, it means that the counter-offensive that Ukraine organized so far is a failure. And if that's the case, then it's more than likely that Russia will hold the line and will survive the counter-strike efforts of the Ukrainians. You have to remember that the Ukrainians pulled all of their available resources to come and attack in Kupiansk, because they found that to be the least well defended, and they thought it would be an easy victory, and they could raise a flag, and they could get a good media, media promotion for the military efforts of the Ukrainian armed forces. But so far, as of yet, we don't see any sign that they have won or that they're close to winning. And then you take into account the phony video put out by Zelensky, with his photo taken some kilometers outside the city. And we also take into account the versions the Ukrainians put out about their control of Pokrovsk, when it was not the case, and it was demonstrably not the case. So there was very strong evidence to suggest that the Russians had completely taken the city, and what was left of the Ukrainian forces in Pokrovsk was just a small number of soldiers that were being encircled. So it seems to me that the Ukrainians are pushing a lot of narratives that they feel that they need to stand behind in order to get out a kind of good vibes of their military campaign, and this is so that they can continue to receive money and military support. Of course, the Western countries are going to continue to provide them money and military support no matter what happens. So I'm not too sure why they need to work so hard to get media victories that don't have any verification. So anyway, I'm more inclined to believe the Russian point of the Russian narrative about Kupiansk, and they have acknowledged the lots of counterattacks from the Ukrainians. So it's not like they're saying that they're in complete control and there's no Ukrainians anywhere nearby. They are acknowledging that. We're not going to get much information from the Russian Ministry of Defense about how that's going, but I'm sure when they push back on the Ukrainians and push them out of Kupiansk, that we will get verification of that simply by geolocations of Ukrainian drones attacking Russian soldiers outside of Kupiansk. So, but there seems to be a covering over the city of the fog of war. Both sides are putting out their narratives, are putting out videos supporting their narrative. Even the Russians put out a video of a Russian soldier walking in an area that was supposedly encircled by the Ukrainians, and he's just walking out in the middle of the street, and not in a hurry, not running and then hiding somewhere. No, just walking in the middle of the street. So the Russians have their own narratives, the Ukrainians have their own narratives, and I would say that we should know soon how this is going. But the fact that the Russians have stood up to really what is the last big grouping of Ukrainian soldiers to try to carry out a counter attack, seems to me like the Ukrainian armed forces really doesn't have the power that it had in 2024 and 2023, and if this is it, if this is all the power that they have left to try to do counterattacks, then this bodes very poorly for what's going to happen in the coming months. So anyway, I think we can take Kupiansk as still within Russian control, although they are ceding parts of that city to Ukraine. And once the Ukrainians tire out and they're no longer able to carry out any more counterattacks, then the Russians will again clean up the outer urban areas of Kupiansk and will let us know about their successes. So anyway, that is my video for today regarding the Kupiansk conundrum, what's going on. I hope everyone is doing well and wish you happy holidays. And also, if you like this video, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you back for future videos. So take care. Bye-bye.